Welcome to Garage Talks. Today we have Dana Willett, and we'll tell you more about Dana in a minute. But I wanted to pay tribute to our sponsor today, which is 11 Pine, a local Boulder, Colorado company that makes these wonderful shorts. I'll show them off for a second. But they zip down and be nice and tight for a bike short. Zip back up for a little bit more comfort, walking around. And they have an inner liner that has the bike chamois. So it's a really versatile short. I love to trail run them in, actually. And the pocket is such I can put my phone in it, and it stays right on my thigh. And I can run really easily, and they're just cool. And they're great people. Jeff Kern runs that, and they're good folks. And support them if you're out looking for shorts, right, Dana?
Yeah, that's right. They've been around for a while.
They have been around for a while.
I'm so happy that they've lasted and blossomed. You know, it's a tough market.
Yes, and thanks to last week's guest, Pete Piccolo. I'm going to get to my notes here. Of Bicycle Colorado. If you listened or have a chance to listen, he kind of tells us about how Bicycle Colorado is doing right now, what they're up to. And he one of our questions for our guest, we'll get to Dana's in a little bit, is what was his best decision of 2020? And it was that he started yoga, which I thought was kind of an interesting answer and makes me feel like I should start yoga someday. But I just keep never going there. So anyway, Dana Willett. Let's talk about Dana and talk to Dana. Dana, for those that don't know, was one of the, I guess, founders of 303, at least 303 Triathlon. 303 Cycling was around for a little bit. And then you came on board with 303 Triathlon and then ran the entire thing for years. And I can say she's probably one of the most influential people in my business life. And I miss her, working with her every day. But so glad you're here today. And thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be here in your garage.
I don't know.
So fancy.
Right? We are fancy. Maybe we'll paint it someday or something.
No, it's perfect. Just the way it is.
Well, thanks for coming on, and bring us up to date real quick, and we'll get back to the roots of 303, but what are you up to these days?
Yeah, so, like everybody else, locked in the house with my husband working from home and my two grown boys home from college. Of course, they were kicked off of their college campuses. So we've got four of us, and my husband and I had downsized, so we moved to a smaller home in Hygiene, 2-bedroom. Yeah, and so my oldest son is sharing my office. He's in a mattress on the floor, and I don't really have a desk anymore. And my husband's in the laundry room trying to do his Zoom calls, you know, with the shirt and tie and shorts on under the desk.
Right.
And then my other son's in the other bedroom, and so, but we're making it work, and luckily the weather's turning, and so we're able to be outside more. We've got some good outdoor spaces. We're in Hygiene, and that's really nice.
And you got some land, right?
We do. It's it's just a little over an acre.
Okay.
But we back up to open space.
All right.
So right over our back fence is a big herd of cows, and so we've got all the babies now, which is really great. And
did I see some chicks?
Yeah, I did the day-old chicks they're now 4 weeks old. Yeah. So yeah, I got chickens. We're going to move them into the coop next week.
Wow.
Have eggs by August, hopefully.
My sister went through that a couple of years ago. It's an interesting process.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Oh, I'm loving it. It's not that much work once you get into a routine and learn a little bit. There was some upfront knowledge and lots of YouTube videos, but.
Right. Are you? You were telling me earlier. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit. You're training on Zwift, but what were you training for, or what are you training for? Or
Right. This is the case for everybody right now. I packed my season because I just turned 55 in March. Oh. So finally in that 55 to 59 age group with the old ladies, and it's really only the diehards, that I can hold out the longest. And
you're ready to win all your age groups.
I wasn't looking to win, but I was coming into the season not injured, and the move behind me and the kids out of the house, and I was really gonna have fun with that. And so I packed it with all of Lance's events, and I was going to run my first ultra with the Dirty 30 in May, and I'd never done an ultra run before, so I was training with a group there, and I set to do USAT Nationals in Milwaukee, both distances, and and some other stuff in between, the triple bypass in July, which I'd never done before, and really just get out there and have a lot of fun with it, and. Just one dead soldier at a time.
Right.
They keep all the dominoes are falling. So
But are you getting out and have a lot of fun right now? How has it shifted what you're doing on a daily basis, maybe?
Well, actually, I have more routine in my workouts because I have, I don't have as many commitments or distractions, or I don't have to move things around as much. And my oldest son, Sam, who's 22 and just is finishing college and a collegiate swimmer, has taken up triathlon. So he and I have been on the trainers in the garage together. We've kind of converted our garage into a workout area, and he's got the cases of White Claws on the ends of the broomstick, for his weightlifting and stuff.
Awesome.
Working out with college kids is really fun. But we get it done. We get it done early. We do a lot of Zoom workouts, and he joined D3, so he's been coached by a D3 coach now, and so it's fun to be teammates with my grown son and get to do that together.
Oh,
it's
that's
the
great.
time that I never thought that would happen. You
right?
know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, he had a really nice college swimming career.
He had a great, and just had qualified for NCAAs, and of course didn't get to do that. But that's all right. He made All-American, and so
that's awesome.
It was really great.
Is he really missing
super proud
the
of
pool?
him. He is. At first he wasn't. At first he was like, done with swimming. Now he's missing it, like we all are.
Yeah.
We're all missing that reek of chlorine.
So let's back up way back. You grew up in Omaha, right?
I did.
And talk about growing up a little bit and what you did as a kid and a teenager in terms of sports, and maybe how you got into cycling and triathlon and running and swimming. And I don't think I've heard any of your stories about growing up.
So I grew up north of Omaha in the country, and we're pretty remote. I'm the youngest of 5 kids from my parents' marriage, with a lot of age difference between me and my siblings. So, my poor mom was like, keep this kid busy during the summers, starting when I was 6. So she signed me up for horseback riding lessons, and I took off. I joined the pony club, and I was doing a lot of hunter jumper and 3-day eventing for a good half a dozen years. It's very competitive, and did a lot of regional and Midwestern events, and it's very competitive. And gave that up in my teens, and missed it ever since. Missed the competitiveness and the discipline of it, and of course the animals. And but didn't do any sports in high school or college. I mean, this was the early 80s.
Did you have big hair?
I had the big hair. Yeah, man, that photo challenge. I should have done it. And so. I kind of had the gym membership, did the step aerobics class, didn't really do anything until my son, Sam, whom I was just talking about, and my younger son, Ben, started swimming when they were, 6 and 8 years old.
Okay.
And got involved, with summer league and then club swimming. And I was sitting in the bleachers and thinking, gee, these are my boys, and they're growing up, and they're growing away from me, and sports are more important to them. And I'm sitting on the bleachers with these other moms who, would kind of get their kids started and then go leave for a run and come back. And we were, living in the Longmont area. And I was like, I should maybe get off my butt and
get off
and get going. And so a friend of mine in the bleachers said, you should. She was always wearing these triathlon T-shirts. Leanne McAllister. She was my first coach, and she said, just try something small. Just try. Have you ever run a 5K? And I was like, no, I've never
Really?
done anything. Yeah.
Okay.
I was 42 years old. So my goal was to run a 5K without having to walk. And so I did the Lake McIntosh, the Mud Hen Run.
Mud Hen Run.
A little 5K, pinned on my number, didn't really know what I was doing. I was wearing my son's tennis shoes because my luggage had been lost on a business trip. But I did. I ran the whole thing, and they'd set up this little, the little tape at the end, right, with a little chalk mark on the sidewalk, and there were a handful of people, mostly parents there, who were cheering for their kids who were doing it. And but they clapped for me as I came over the little chalk line, and I thought, oh, this is really cool. I had such a sense of accomplishment that I'd kind of set that goal and did it, and my kids were proud of me. They thought that was pretty cool. And so that same friend Leanne said, okay, now you got to learn to swim, and now never had a bike or anything, so I took off from there.
Really? Okay.
So it was my kids who got me into triathlon because of their swimming.
Well, we're about the same age. I was 44 when I tried my first triathlon. So,
Okay, yeah.
So I get
Yeah.
that. I kind of get that. But I had ridden my bike a lot for years and
Yeah,
years. So you
yeah.
really hadn't done any of that.
No, I hadn't done.
But now you've raced. How many races would you say you've done?
Oh, hundreds, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in my you know, that 45 to 49-year-old age range. You know, I think that's the craziest female age group, I think, because, you know, man, it's really competitive.
Yeah.
And I was racing a lot. That was, you know, peak years for 303, and
Right.
I was just out there doing everything I could, and so the more I raced, the better I did, and that's when I did my 2 Ironman races, and a lot of half Ironman,
Yeah.
a lot of 73s, and made it 73 worlds once, so that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
And I was good with that. I never, you know, I learned early on that I probably wasn't real physically gifted in terms of this coming naturally, or, you know, who I'm gonna go far. You know?
Well, one of my questions is, how would you describe yourself athletically? That kind of links to that.
Athletically, I'd say I'm pretty average. Pretty, you know, of the women who do it, yes.
Okay.
Of the general population, I'd say I'm super proud. I'd say this is, you know, hard work pays off, right?
Right.
You put your mind to it, you have the discipline, you put the work in. But yeah, among female triathletes, I'm so happy when I can go out and hang with the middle of the pack, because I feel like that's a particular population that works really hard, and so to be able to hang there feels like a real accomplishment.
Well, and you've had some, like, you know, people in your age group that have had some major accomplishments in the Olympics and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, me too. And it's like, oh, gosh, how do you get, the gaps are amazing.
The gaps are amazing, especially here in Colorado, right? Yeah.
So what would be your favorite race? If I ask you, what's your favorite race ever? You've done hundreds. What really jumps to the top of your mind?
Oh, Steamboat Lake.
Really?
Always. Sprint, right? Little sprint race. The most beautiful setting, right? Without that water and the babbling brooks and the cows, and, you know, you ride as far as you can to the cattle guard. That's where you turn around, and then you've got a trail run at the end, and it's really limited in terms of how many people can get in, and so the people who are there are just so, you know, grateful and happy to get to participate, and it's always just green and lush and wildflowers. You know, the Steamboat anytime is gorgeous, but I think Steamboat Lake is really special, and I don't know, I've always felt good at that race. And, you know, any race by Lance, really, I'm happy with. Though, you know, a Peggy's race, you know, Lake to Lake is awesome too, and so many others. So,
How about
you know,
Wildflower? You were out there a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
What'd you think of
I
that?
did Wildflower. Yeah, I did. It was kind of crazy. Yeah, you stay. Yeah, right. So you stay in a camper. I was in the camper with 4 other women, and so, you know, it's just, you know, the steep pitches, you know, from like where your camper is down to the transition areas, and then you climb back out. So it's really kind of rough terrain. And I did the off-road one day and then the Olympic the next day. So it was kind of I did a 2-day, and it was hard as heck. It was great. It was, again, a lot of dedicated, you know, a lot of long timers who'd done that race year over year. I love Colorado, so I was happy to go and do it. It was a bucket list thing, but I don't feel like I need to do it every year.
Well, I would say from my perspective that you're one of those really persevering type of people. Like you're willing to put your work boots on, you dig in, you just never give up. Do you think racing makes you that way, or have you always been that way, or is it a combination?
I think I have a personality that lends itself well to the discipline of triathlon. So I would say, yes, I've always been that way. Yeah. I've always been very goal-oriented and pretty organized and determined. And so that lends itself well to the triathlete lifestyle, right?
Right.
And really, you know, so much of the sport is about, you know, putting the time in, that, you know, that steadfast effort. It's not overnight. I think the athletes who are just kind of magically gifted are few and far between.
Right. How about to your business world? I mean, when I met you, however many years ago that was now, I came in writing some stories, and you held me to my once a week story, and I was pretty good for a while. Now I'm not as consistent on my own writing, but definitely learned about you. Hey, where's that story? It's 10 o'clock on Friday. Where's your story? But were you a journalist for a long? I mean, what's your background before 303, and then let's talk about how you kind of got into 303 too.
Yeah. My degree's in broadcast journalism, with a double major in English composition. So. Turned that into kind of a marketing communications career and worked in video production and advertising and marketing the bulk of my adult life. But I went to school at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, and then the day after I graduated, I packed up my 1970 Volkswagen Bug with all my worldly possessions and went out to Los Angeles. Because I knew if I wanted to make a go of it in the production world, in film and video, I needed to be on one of the coasts. And so I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with 5 people, got a job waitressing at the Torrance Marriott, and until I could get a real job. I had really nothing to my name, and I did it. I made a go of it, and got a job at Tracy Lock Advertising working on the Pepsi Cola account.
Yep.
One thing led to another. I became a production assistant, got to work in Japan for a couple of years, got to come back and work as a producer in Hollywood on corporate communications, film and video. And that was great. But it was early in my life, in my early 20s, I learned that the only way it was going to happen was if I kind of hit the ground running and made it happen for myself, and that a lot of months of ramen noodles.
And then you were in Colorado, and I don't know what you were doing before you started at 303. Maybe mostly with the boys and probably getting them through school and doing whatever. But how did you get introduced to Chris Thompson, who started 303 with David Cutsable back in, I don't know, when did 303 cycling start, do you know?
303 cycling started in, 2008?
Okay.
Let's see, I had the 10-year anniversary, it may have been 2007, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
And I had been working remotely as a marketing research consultant for a firm back in Kansas City, and then also working for down in Denver. But just doing piecework. And Will Murray actually ran into Chris Thompson on a bike ride somewhere, right?
Okay.
Isn't that how all good business is done?
Yes.
And Chris said, David and I we've got cycling site up and going, and we've got some good traction there, and just geniuses in terms of the websites and that whole design and the back end there. And Chris told Will, I'd like to give the triathlon side a go. Do you know anyone, who might be? And Will and I were teammates at that time, Howie Endurance coaching, with Craig Howie.
Yeah. And
so he and I knew each other well, and he had knew enough about me that I knew that I was a kind of a writer, journalist, so he said, well, give Dana a call. And so I got this random email from Chris, and we met at the Walnut Cafe and had breakfast, and he had his 303 hat on, and man, I remember meeting him and just being so wowed by his site and what he was talking about, and so excited about like a new religious convert. I was just like, I just love triathlon so much, and I was so excited about getting the word out, and as a new triathlete at the age of 42, not a confident athlete at all. I had no confidence because didn't even know what the first thing about it. It was really, really hard for me to get into the sport and even know where are the resources. How do you find out about it? Where do you at that time there was the print Triathlete magazine.
Right.
But where do you go? How do you find information? And that was before Facebook was really, had so many different groups and threads and everything. And so there was a Competitor magazine, right, that would come out with their hard copy every 6 months, and it would list, the races, and, you could kind of go through that. But I always felt like I was, a day late and a dollar short. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. And so I was super excited about sharing what I knew and helping other beginners get into the sport and having a hub where the information could live and be sourced. And the one spot where you could go and you could see a calendar where everything was listed and you could read all the latest news and you could get advice and especially specific to Colorado because when Lava magazine was out there and stuff. I mean, that was really interesting and everything, but it wasn't very relevant to amateur triathletes who were just looking for what can I do a month from now. So
yeah. Huh. And what are some highlights in your mind of when you were covering races or events, or what are some funny stories that maybe I don't even know about? Well, we've had our own funny moments.
You were all the funny stories, so it's just all right there.
Great. Like when you did my laundry in Kona. Whose gray underwear is this?
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I knew that was probably.
No, I mean, Kona was always a highlight, and that's one of the things I was most proud of, and I'm so grateful that you've carried on that tradition. Because the first year that Jen Findlay and I went, and we stayed in this, one bedroom bathhouse behind these people's pool, and there was no air conditioning, and we were making gift bags, for the Colorado athletes and stuff, and it was just the two of us, and we didn't know what we were doing. All we knew was there've got to be people back in Colorado who want to know about these Colorado athletes who are here, and the Ironman coverage is only really going to show those top tier professionals. So we wanted to bring the information back. So I was, taking pictures like crazy, and we're trying to write stories, but we were just making it up as we went along, and it had traction. The athletes from Colorado really appreciated it, and so we decided as a group, the next year to keep that going, and we went back every year, and it just got bigger and better, and oh man,
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but that's a great experience. Those are really good memories.
How about something local? I'll prompt you a little bit. I think
okay.
I think your idea with the smooth, or not the smoothies.
Oh, the snow cones.
The snow cones at Ironman Boulder was pretty novel. I was racing it, but you guys schlepping ice and oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my car just smelled like, fuel for months after carrying the generators, and that ran the snow cone machines, right? And but that first year that we did that, and the people who came by, they were so, because that was the first year that we had the full.
It was 14.
Ironman, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And so they were, a lot of folks who came were so unprepared. A lot of the athletes were really unprepared for how dry it is, right, and the altitude, and also the climbs, right? And so where were we out on?
You were on Lookout.
Niwot Road.
Was it
Lookout? Anyway, it was over it was at the top of one of the climbs, and people were pushing their bikes up the hill, right, to get to us, and then just collapsing on their backs under our little tent, and we were spoon feeding them shaved ice, and going to sending volunteers to the store for more ice, and so it was it felt so good to be needed and to have that great accomplishment. And Dave Christian was always so awesome to work with, and all the Ironman staff and all the 303 staff, and it was those shared experiences where we were not paid, we were not even really recognized, especially early on, until we became better known and we weren't going away, but the satisfaction and pride that we got out of that, and knowing that we did something well, and we did something good, and we did it as a team, right, and we had that such strong bond. And I think that is what I get from the triathlon community a lot. Right now, being locked in and isolated, man, if I didn't have my team, if I didn't have my coach, I feel for the triathletes out there who have a takeaway plan or something, and are trying to do it on their own, and now kind of scrambling because they can't go to their their weekly group ride or whatever, and because I don't know if I didn't have all the Zoom stuff with my teammates and some of that regular, at least some sort of electronic interaction, I would really, right, be missing out, because I think the community and that camaraderie is so huge in the sport.
Where do you find your inner motivation, if you will? Because we've had this conversation. You and I are talking about introverts and extroverts, and you've told me in the past that you can be the most extroverted person at a party and getting pictures and getting in front of people, but you've also told me that even in Kona that you just need to go be quiet and regroup, and so you in some ways are an introvert extrovert, right?
Yep, exactly.
But where do you find who motivates you, or what motivates you on all levels?
Well, I think it's a lot of it is what I just described. It's what I find myself yearning for in any effort or attempt that I make at anything, right? Finishing a race and going and finding my people, whoever it is whom I know it's going to be there, and reconnecting there, and coming together in a shared goal and a shared accomplishment, just like we did with the snow cone machines or the efforts in Kona or whatever. Setting out to do something hard and then celebrating it together. That's what's most motivating.
So when you're on you're out on St. Vrain Road, it's windy, the rains are starting to settle.
I just turn around and go home. I'm not that motivated.
But when it's a hard by yourself, do you think of the finish line? Do you think of the people? Do you think of what gets you through that workout?
Yeah, coming back and talking about it in one manner or another with people who get it, and which now is my son, right?
That's so cool.
Can you believe that wind on Hygiene Road today? That kind of thing. But also, whether it's some Facebook string or, whatever, happy hour, whatever. Having that shared and common experience and people who get it, that's. And also going, I'll admit, going home and looking at the number. So how much power did I punch in that wind? I'm really driven by that.
How much extra ice cream can I have today?
Well, and it just sucks getting older too, because those numbers are just falling off like crazy, and it's like, I wonder if I could just be, push as many watts as I did on this climb a year ago.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll we have 3 questions we like to ask our guests coming up, but I want to ask you. I'll give you the opportunity. Talk about D3 a little bit. And you went transition from 303, and then you had your Rescue Rinse, which was a product that you pushed to market for the last couple of years, which I know was a lot of work for you.
Yeah.
And then now you've settled in with D3 a little bit. You're doing some work with them, I think.
A little bit. Mm-hmm.
And then you're also just part of the team. And talk about that experience a little bit.
So my coach, Craig Howie, was my one and only coach for 10 years, and he retired. And so, kicking and screaming, I said, "Now I got to go find another coach." And he said, "Yeah, you need to go to." Craig Howie said, "You need to go to D3. That's who I recommend." Okay. And of course, I knew D3 through 303,
sure.
Mike Ricci and Mel, and of course I knew Jim Hallberg from doing masters with him, and he's a D3 coach. And so I gave Mike a call and said, I need a coach. What do you recommend? So he has a really comprehensive interview process that he puts athletes through, understanding kind of just their personality type, where they're coming from, and what they're wanting, and then he works to match them up. He's got a whole stable full of amazing coaches, and then he sets up some interviews, and athlete can go through and talk to a couple different coaches and figure out the best fit.
Oh, that's cool.
And for me, it was Jim Hallberg. Jim is the calm to my very stormy approach to things, and he always kind of keeps me on an even keel. And I tend to get a little bit dramatic and worry about the details. And he's like, "Just chill. It's all going to be good." So yeah, it's good.
That's cool. That's awesome. I mean, from afar, it feels like you've gotten stronger.
I've definitely gotten stronger.
Yeah.
I've gotten better. I've gotten much better at going from a race mentality to a lifestyle mentality.
Oh, okay.
Because the races are important and they're fun, and they're it's kind of why people do this is to be training for something. And I think it's one of the things we're learning right now. You take the races away, and it really takes you down to your core. And so what is your why? If you don't, so you take the races out, now what's your why? Is it that race that maybe is next year? That's really hard. And so it's more of an acceptance of this is a lifestyle. I want to age as gracefully as I can. I want to be able to bend over and pick things up off the floor. That would be great, as the decades go on. And I mean, I still want to be able to ride a bike and run and hop in the pool for many years to come. And so right now, this training is all about maintaining that and continuing to get stronger, and mostly about not losing the strength that I have. I mean, that's kind of what gets me out the door every day. I don't want to lose ground.
Right. Yeah, it's hard at our age to
get
stronger.
Yeah.
Well, I'll wrap up with our sort of 3 standards, if you will.
All right.
Tell me your favorite place in the world.
My favorite place in the world is home. It just is. I've traveled. I've been really fortunate to travel a lot for work and for pleasure, and there's still a lot of places I would like to see. But more and more, just the stability of home and having a really great place, and a place that my kids will come back to, and hopefully grandkids one day, and having that be inviting and nurturing. That's just kind of where I'm at.
And is this new home your home? I mean, is this going to be your home for a long time, you think?
It better be. Man, I've got that chicken coop in great shape, so I'm not leaving it anytime soon. Awesome.
Well, what's been your best decision so far this year?
So it's so funny because when I was with 303, I had a really hard time. Obviously, and this, being in communications, being in journalism, being in the media, you're subject to controversy. You're subject to varying opinions and sometimes unkind things or comments and things like that, feedback. And Chris Thompson, it was back when Frozen was so popular, and he's like, Dana, you gotta let it go. You just gotta let it go. And he wouldn't sing to me, but he would always talk about his daughter singing, and I was like, oh yeah, let it go. This year it has really been a lot of learning how to let it go. I mean, as these races have fallen one after another, and I've been working with D3 on communications and team engagement, and trying to keep the whole team informed and motivated and engaged. And it's like you got to let go of what you can't control and let go of things that are just not going to happen, and try and find a different motivation.
So your decision is letting go, essentially.
Yeah.
Learning how to let go.
Learning how to let go and recognizing that we're probably not going to race this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably aren't going to race this year. There may be some, and maybe towards the end of the season, maybe some stuff will happen in the fall, but we probably aren't.
Right.
And there's just no reason getting upset about it, getting mad about it, getting uptight about it, lamenting it. Just got to let it go, regroup, reframe it.
Yeah. And lastly, if you were to have a dream career, or dream job in a career, what would that dream be? Like if you weren't doing what you've done, what maybe would you wish you had done as a job?
An equine veterinarian.
Really?
My love of horses started when I was 6 years old. And when I was a teenager, I told a doctor friend of my father's that was what I wanted to be. And he said, you can't. You're a woman. Women are too small and weak to handle the veterinary procedures necessary on large animals. That's very unrealistic. You need to be more realistic, young lady. And I believed him. And so I thought, well, that must be true. There must not be, he certainly should know what he's talking about. And so, and I've always kind of regretted that. So, and who knows? It's never too late. I won't become a veterinarian, but I definitely do intend to work with horses. So
great. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
It's been a joy, and we'll see you on a ride hopefully one of these days. And
yes.
We'll go from there.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
Sounds good. Long live 303.
Thank you.